also think that in lieu of the fact that we now, as of January 1st, is a new law providing officers the right to sue, and in the case of false accusations or complaints being filed, inaccurate complaints being filed against them. And I think that if we're not careful as to what information we release, we may violate the sanctity of that particular law also. And that's something that we would really necessarily need to run past our attorney. Because I think if we released information and then a lawsuit was filed based on the information we released, or we released information and a lawsuit was filed during the same interim, we might find ourselves in a legal conflict that isn't necessary for us.
I honestly don't think that's a realistic fear, but because what those lawsuits would be based on is statements made in the complaint itself, as I understand it.
That's my understanding. Right. We would be adding to the complaint. We would speak.
But in the event that we changed the finding of a complaint or provided basically new discovery for either party in that complaint based on our findings, it would concern me that that might have an impact. I mean, in the event that an officer is exonerated and we found it sustained, or an officer was sustained and we found that the officer is exonerated, it may change the outlook of that particular case.
I would actually prefer on this issue to have the release continue to be a staff function. I do think that Gary needs clearer criteria, but I think that making it a committee function is going to make it quite cumbersome.
I think it could make it pretty cumbersome. My intention is that as much information is released to the public as possible, as is legal, and I hope we can release more information than we have been releasing. And I think we need to respect the privacy of the officer and the complainant, and also respect the legal boundaries that have been ascribed to us, including this idea that we can't have something lead back to an event that there's prior knowledge about. But this example that I gave of this complaint that was reported in the press that Michael has referred to, it's true the reporter went to the police department and wrote about the police report, but he didn't have access to the complaint, and therefore the description in the article is, as I said, in my opinion, misleading, because the reader is assuming what the complaint is from what is written. And in fact, the complaint was not in that article. And I'm very concerned about that. I think we should be putting out as accurate information as possible. And as much as possible. I think it's in the interest of the board and of the public to be doing that. So, and I understand it's Gary's position. I mean, it's kind of on your shoulders. Yeah. I thought we could take it off and put it on someone else's shoulders for a while, but that's my explanation of why I think we should be doing this. And maybe we can have Gary. I don't know, maybe we can have some input into that, or discuss this with Gary, or set some, better defined parameters for him to work with.
As far as, I wouldn't, for one second, question the accuracy of the information that's released. That's not a question. The accuracy of the information is such. Now, whether or not you feel that it's complete information or it's information, in my experience with the press, it doesn't matter what we tell them. They'll write what they want.
Well, that may be so, but in this situation, they wrote what they had.
Which was accurate information based on what we were allowed to provide them.
I don't know if that's true. Are you sure that? I think we could tell them more than that. And in fact, I think it's our responsibility.
I don't think either one of you can resolve this at this point in terms of whether, as I understand it, what was released at that time was what we understood could be released, John. Right?
I don't know. I'm a bit confused about what we can release because it has varied.
Well, it has always varied on the side of releasing more and more and more. Right?
you, Madam Chair, members of this commission. As a member of the public, I'd like to express my disappointment, deep disappointment with the quality of the information that we're receiving. It is impossible to ascertain whether or not you folks are doing a good job or a bad job or an adequate job or an inadequate job because of the information that we're receiving. What we receive is a very, very brief summary of the category of the complaint and whether you decided to found it or not found it. We sometimes, but not always, receive information about the numerical vote. We sometimes, but not always, receive information about whether there are abstentions or not. We do not receive information about whether the grounds for those abstentions. We do not receive information about who voted which way. And most importantly, we have no information about why you decided what you decided. No clue. Not a clue why you decided to agree or disagree with the police department, why the police department recommended one thing or another thing, or really what the nature of the complaint is. What are our citizens complaining that our public officials are doing or not doing? We can't tell. That's not sufficient to bring government to the light of day, for the citizens to be able to ascertain whether its government's doing a good job or not. So I'd like to echo John's concerns that the public has inadequate information about what you're doing. I've heard commissioners tonight say that committee at this juncture would not be valuable because you might be getting a lawyer and be able to get additional information soon. Well, as a lawyer, one of the first things that the lawyer is going to want to know is what's your question and what do you want the answer to be. And then I'll be able to tell you what the answer is. And so, if you have a lawyer online, and hopefully they will be moving quickly to hire someone, they're going to want to know, what do you want to know? And if we have to wait till next month for you to form a committee to form the questions to ask the lawyer, it will be 2 or 3 or 4 more months before the questions are asked, let alone answered. And so I think it would be really valuable at this juncture for you to form a group, whether all of you, some of you, one of you, to ascertain what you would like to be doing. Ideally, what information would you like to reveal to the public? And with that information, what you ideally would like to reveal to the public, to develop the questions you'd like to ask the lawyer. One is, this is what we would like to reveal. May we? Is that within the confines of the law? That would be extremely valuable for the lawyer to have. So I think that while we don't want to encumber more and more committees to decide what information you're going to be revealing after your next committee and leave staff to write whatever's going to be written, it is really valuable for a committee to be looking at this very controversial and important question about what information you're going to be revealing and when.
Ms. Mark,
Yes.
I don't really understand your point about who voted for what. Can you expand on that a little bit as to how that